Texas has entered its 1,000th day under COVID emergency orders. Plus, groomers are attacking a pro-family organization for exposing drag shows for kids. I'm Brandon Waltons. This is the headline. Well, you've heard of the 12 days of Christmas. How about the 1,000 days of COVID? That's right. This week, Texas marked its 1,000th day under Governor Greg Abbott's COVID emergency. This was the declaration, the 30-day declaration he originally issued in March of 2020 that led to the lockdowns, mask mandates, et cetera, everything we've seen come since. Well, that 30-day order has been extended now multiple times. Most recently on November 18th. It's set to be extended potentially again later this month. Here to talk about that and what it means for Texas, we have Texas Scorecard publisher Quinn Sullivan. Michael, first of all, thanks for stopping by. We got the studio's getting a little bit nice for the season.
It feels very festive in here,
very
Brandon.
festive.
Yeah,
you can warm up by the fire.
Yeah,
it's only like 80 degrees outside, so we got the nice fire.
I'm always amazed at the way we treat Christmas. We use this imagery, of the northernmost reaches of the planet with snowmen and jolly elves, and whatever.
Yeah. Well,
for me, it's only Christmas if I'm in t-shirts and a short.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes for us here in Texas. But what we've had here in Texas, Texas has the distinction now of being one of only 11 states left in the country that is still under this emergency order, which essentially allows the executive, in this case Governor Greg Abbott, to issue declarations, executive orders without approval from the legislature. And people are starting to, I think they started to notice this a year ago, right? 2 years ago, but are really starting to say, okay, 1,000 days, is this really an emergency at this point?
Yeah, well, look, let's do remember to give a little bit of credit and maybe a slap across the face where it's due to the Texas legislature. The legislature originally gave this power to governors back in the 1970s with the idea towards, when a natural disaster of some sort hits the state, you need to mobilize kind of all of government state resources in a time that would not be possible to get the legislature in session to make those changes. I don't think anyone then anticipated some of the excuses that have been used since, and particularly not COVID. To their credit, though, in 2021, the legislature, when we were only at 300 days of the COVID emergency at that point, the legislature passed House Bill 3. The House, the Senate, they both passed it with veto-proof majorities, went to a conference committee where it just mysteriously died, and no one made a peep about it. Now someone's making a peep about it, as you reported yesterday, that Brian Harrison, state rep from Waxahachie, is going to try again with, I think, the appropriately numbered House Bill 911, perhaps indicating the emergency that he sees to liberty with this.
Yeah, let me read you this quote he put out when he put out this bill this week. Literally, he says, never-ending emergency powers are antithetical to representative government and render people powerless. Later goes on to say legislative bodies allowing a single executive branch official to both write and enforce laws is the biggest threat to our constitutional system of divided government. Really strong words from somebody who's going in. He's not quite a freshman, but he's like kind of a freshman. He came in at the tail end of last session, a special election. Really bold words, and I think people are expecting to see some bold action as well.
Yeah, they are, and I think some of it just kind of comes down to the governor's lack of transparency on this issue, because he hasn't really explained why he's continuing to. Now, a lot of his kind of fourth circle out of fanboys on social media will come up with all sorts of theories about why he's doing it. Well, we live in this representative system in which our public servants are supposed to explain themselves, and yet the governor himself and no one on his staff have said why he's continuing to do it. Second, he has not indicated what he's looking for in the world. What he's looking for in the world of Texas, what he's looking for, on the planet, that would bring an end to this disaster, bring an end to the need for an emergency. So it has a lot of folks kind of questioning, why are we doing this in the first place? And then the governor should answer these questions, which I think is why what Brian Harrison is doing is so important, because it does bring the very important check. We talk about our system in, seventh grade government class, of checks and balances, and Mr. Harrison is bringing a check onto the system that the legislature back in the 1970s failed to include.
Yes, and this bill, it should be said, what it actually does is it says that these executive orders, these emergency orders, need to be narrowly tailored. They need to be subject to expedited judicial review. And importantly, it would also sunset the orders 30 days after if the legislature doesn't give their approval. And so that's something that's certainly been talked about. We'll see if it gets any traction in this coming session. Speaking of this upcoming legislative session, one thing the governor has asked both House Speaker Dade Phelan and Lieutenant Governor Patrick to take action on is cracking down on the Chinese-owned TikTok app. Just this week, he banned state agencies, people who work for state agencies, from using the app on government-issued devices, but he also recommended that the legislature take action to go a little further to prevent it from personal devices of government employees, to prevent it on local governments, et cetera. And this comes amid these reports that are, I think, very serious and go along with some of our reporting recently on Chinese infiltration in Texas, but also in the country. Reports that say that, this app, this TikTok, there's some serious security concerns.
Yeah, I know we're not supposed to say nice things about the bad orange man, but Donald Trump was early, and he was right about TikTok when he and his administration prohibited TikTok from being on Department of Defense and Homeland Security devices. Here's this, 85 million plus American users. It's the way that, kind of the top way that people under 30 now get their weather. I mean, it's just amazing the reach that ByteDance, this Chinese-owned company, CCP-affiliated company, has infiltrated into kind of the popular culture. But what we've also learned, what researchers have also found, is that it collects location data. It is even able to collect things like Bluetooth signals, Wi-Fi signals, which in the right hands, the folks understand interior mapping and exterior surveillance, that foreign agents could use that information for nefarious purposes. And so I think that's why when I think there's this kind of an initial knee jerk that says, what, the governor wants to ban it on state employees' personal devices? But you got to think who are state employees, people in law enforcement, people in Texas military forces, who it's very common for those folks to be issued a department or agency issued device upon which they're supposed to conduct their personal business, but they also carry their personal cell phones. So their kids can call, they can get emails from their church or, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. But if they've got TikTok on that personal device, it's kind of, moving along with them through their day, that potentially could provide actionable intelligence to the Chinese Communist Party that we might not want them to have. So, I appreciate, after, we spent a few minutes talking about Abbott and the executive orders, emergency orders, I do appreciate that the governor is giving agencies a specific date, middle of February, to come up with their own plans, and then asking the speaker and the lieutenant governor to have the legislature address this. We have to stop pretending like China is a partner, and we need to recognize that they are a global threat to the United States and to Texas.
Absolutely, and we'll see what comes out of that. Well, speaking of security online, Texas Family Project, who has been exposing drag shows all across Texas for kids, these for kids drag shows, has been the target of hundreds and hundreds of attacks on their website. Here to talk about that, we have the president of Texas Family Project, Chris Hopper. Chris, your organization, in just a span of a few months, has been exposing and shining a light on these drag shows for kids. And now it seems like the left is fighting back and trying to take down your website.
Yeah, things have gone crazy over the past just few days. We've received 4 million total website hits from 30,000 unique devices just in the last 3 or 4 days. We've had 15,000 false reports total. Now, we filter the vast majority of these out, but it for sure has become just the snowball effect of chaos.
And this kind of came out of seemingly nowhere, right? I mean, this really ramped up over the last week or so.
Yeah, we have simply been doing what we've been doing since June when we launched the Texas Family Project. We've just been exposing the fact that these drag shows are unsafe places for children, that the sexualization of children is a real thing and it should be fought. And we are gaining traction, lots of recognition, but with that recognition comes just the chaos regarding these groups who are trying to shut down the website to the tune of a couple 100,000 an hour, in some cases, hits.
Mm-hmm. And part of the catalyst, too, your organization exposed a drag show, essentially a drag show / toy drive that was happening in San Antonio, where, literally you've got video of an unaccompanied person, little kid, essentially being accosted by these drag performers. So much so that the event actually said they're going to cancel them going forward this month.
So yeah, we would, Brandon, call that a win. It's obviously disgusting when a parent walks in these establishments with a child in tow, but when we have footage of young, sweet children being left to wander these disgusting drag shows and then have these disgusting and perverted drag clowns play with the girls' hair and compliment their clothing and flirt with them, we think that is sexual abuse on display, and it was shut down. We think it's a victory. They're going to ramp up. It's the way this tug of war works, but we are more than prepared to go to war on this issue.
The way we're looking at things now, of course, the legislature is slated to return in about a month in Austin. Do you see a legislative solution to this problem?
We do. We think we can work with some champions, Slayton and a few other guys who we have talked to privately. We want to run legislation that covers this issue of drag shows for kids. We want to cover the issue of sex change operations for kids being illegal. So there's 3 or 4 different routes, and legislatively, yes, to answer your question, we see no reason why we can't pass some robust legislation this next year.
What is your organization going to be doing now going forward, and how can people help expose this kind of these kinds of events?
Yeah, well, the Texas Family Project and our new initiative, Defend Our Kids Texas, we are a grassroots organization. So we thankfully are being fed intel from grassroots people and families all across the state. And we take this information and we send teams out and we expose the chaos. And then on the other hand, we call lawmakers and the comptroller to make a difference and to make impact and to use their leverage to protect children. So we're asking people all across the state to go to texasfamilyproject.com or to follow us on all social media platforms, Family Project TX, at Family Project TX, and just join the fight.
Excellent. Thank you so much for exposing this, Chris.
Thanks, Brandon.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. If you're seeing us on YouTube, go ahead, hit like, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you can be notified every time we've got new content for you up here at Texas Scorecard. For right now, I'm Brandon Waltons. Have a great weekend.
You made it to the end of this video. You're probably 1 in a million. But since you're here, make sure you go to texasscorecard.com to find more journalism and commentary, all things pertaining to Texas. Make sure you also like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit the bell. That way you can be notified when new videos come out. Thanks.